Have you ever felt the crushing weight of being alone, as if the world moved on without you, leaving you in silence? That's silence. It's not emptiness. It's power waiting to be awakened. Growing alone isn't a curse. It's a training ground for the strongest version of yourself. In solitude, you see your weaknesses, confront your fears, and strip away the illusions of comfort. Success doesn't come from crowds or applause. It comes from the relentless grind that no one witnesses. Every late night you endure, every sacrifice you make, every no you hear, they're building your empire silently. The world will try to distract you, tell you you need validation, tell you you need someone to hold you up. But the truth is, strength is born in isolation. Those who embrace their loneliness, who transform pain into fuel, they are unstoppable. Let the whispers of doubt become your soundtrack, and let the fire of ambition consume every fear. Grow alone, and you grow unbreakable. The path is hard, but every step taken in solitude is a step closer to greatness. Your solitude isn't a prison, it's your kingdom in the making. Have you ever felt the sting of silence, the heavy weight of being completely alone in a room full of thoughts? That silence that makes your chest tighten and your mind scream for distraction? That is not emptiness, that is clarity. It is the first sign that you are on the edge of transformation. To embrace solitude is to face yourself without excuses, without masks, without the distractions of the world whispering into your ear that you are not enough. Most people are terrified of being alone because they have never looked in the mirror and truly seen themselves. They are scared of the raw truth, of the weaknesses, the fears, the doubts that dwell deep within. But here's the secret. Solitude is the forge of self-mastery. It is where the weak crumble and the strong rise. Every moment alone is an opportunity to dissect yourself, to find the cracks and fix them, to build a version of you that no one can challenge or intimidate. When you sit in silence, without the noise of friends, social media, or constant distractions, you start to hear the whispers of your potential. They've always been there, buried beneath layers of comfort, fear, and distraction. Solitude is the key that unlocks that potential. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself you've been hiding from. Every fear that surfaces in those quiet hours is a chance to conquer it. Every moment of boredom is a chance to create something meaningful. Every pang of loneliness is a signal that you are breaking free from the chains of dependency, from the need for approval or validation. To embrace solitude is to embrace the responsibility of your own life. It is to understand that no one owes you success, happiness, or love. Every achievement you have ever admired in someone else was built in moments when they were alone, grinding in silence, sacrificing comfort for greatness. Every late night, every early morning, every moment you could have chosen an easy path but chose to push forward. That is what solitude teaches. Solitude makes you self-reliant. It teaches you to trust yourself when the world is silent. It teaches you to become your own mentor, your own motivator, your own friend when no one else is there. In solitude, you begin to master your mind. You learn to separate noise from truth, opinion from reality, desire from discipline. You see clearly where your habits fail you, where your character needs to be strengthened. You realize that distraction is the enemy of growth, and that true progress comes from those long stretches of uninterrupted focus on yourself. You learn to be patient with yourself and persistent in your actions. You learn that consistency, not applause, is the only true measure of success. The hours you spend alone become a sanctuary where the strongest version of you is born, piece by piece, habit by habit, thought by thought. Solitude also teaches humility and resilience. When no one is watching, no one applauding, no one validating your efforts, you are forced to face the unfiltered reality of your work, your character, your mind. And when you confront that reality honestly, you develop a form of resilience that no encouragement can replicate. You learn to thrive without dependency, to create power from within. You realize that the fear of being alone is nothing compared to the power that comes from mastering yourself. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, of other people's approval, or of fleeting trends. You are the architect of your own life, and the quiet, solitary hours are the blueprint of that architecture. Embracing solitude is also about understanding the nature of sacrifice. Growth is never convenient. Transformation is never comfortable. The path to self-mastery requires the willingness to walk alone, while others choose the easy, distracting roads. It requires the courage to say no to immediate pleasures, to meaningless social validation, to habits that serve comfort over growth. Each time you choose to endure a quiet moment of reflection instead of filling it with noise, each time you confront your fear instead of hiding from it, each time you hold yourself accountable in the absence of anyone else, you are building an unshakable foundation for success. Solitude gives you perspective. It shows you the illusions of attachment and dependency, the lies we tell ourselves about needing others to define our worth. In those quiet hours, you see that the opinions of the world are fleeting and that your real power lies in self-awareness and self-discipline. You discover what truly matters, what your deepest ambitions are, and how far you are willing to go to achieve them. You start to understand that loneliness is not a punishment, but a privilege, a chance to grow without compromise, to build a life that no one can dismantle, a life that reflects your raw, unfiltered potential. And here's the most important truth. The world respects results, not excuses. It does not care how lonely you were on the way to greatness. It only recognizes the strength and mastery you ultimately embody. Every hour spent alone, every challenge faced without assistance, every moment you chose discipline over distraction, they compound into a force that cannot be ignored. Solitude is not a void. It is a weapon, a teacher, and a sanctuary all at once. It is the proving ground where you separate the ordinary from the extraordinary, the dependent from the self-reliant, the dreamers from the doers. So stop fearing the silence. Stop running from the moments when no one is there to cheer you on. Turn solitude into your advantage. Use it to dissect your mind, sharpen your focus, and strengthen your character. Let it teach you resilience, self-reliance, and clarity. Understand that in solitude, you are forging an unstoppable version of yourself, one that no circumstance, no person, and no challenge can ever break. Every second alone is a chance to master yourself, and every day spent embracing that power brings you closer to a life defined not by luck, connections, or comfort, but by the relentless pursuit of excellence. Alone is not lonely. Alone is where power is born. Alone is where kings and warriors are made. Alone is where your true self rises. Learn to grow alone, and you will never need anyone else to define your worth, your strength, or your success. Pain is not your enemy. Hardship is not a curse. They are the raw materials from which empires are built, the sparks that ignite the fire of relentless ambition. Every cut, every failure, every moment when life has knocked you down is a message, a challenge, a call to rise stronger than before. Most people run from pain. Most people hide from discomfort, trying to dull the ache with distractions, excuses, and temporary pleasures. But you, if you choose to listen, can turn every scar, every setback, every bitter experience into a weapon, into fuel that propels you forward when others are stuck in complacency. Pain is a teacher, harsh and unforgiving, but it will never mislead you. It reveals weakness, exposes laziness, and strips away the illusions that prevent real growth. Hardship forces you to look at yourself honestly and ask, am I willing to endure this and rise, or will I crumble and remain small? Every great achievement you've admired in history, in sports, in business, or in life, was born from struggle. Those who succeed are not those who avoided hardship. They are those who embraced it, who learned from it, and who let it shape their vision and ignite their hunger. Pain fuels ambition because it gives you something to fight against. It teaches urgency. It gives weight to your goals and meaning to your efforts. Without suffering, motivation is shallow. Without struggle, ambition has no teeth. Every moment of discomfort is an opportunity to cultivate resilience, to strengthen character, and to build a mindset that no obstacle can break. When life slams you against the wall, you have a choice. Let it crush you or let it fuel you. The choice is yours, but the world rewards only those who channel suffering into action. Anger, disappointment, betrayal, and failure, they can either chain you to despair or push you to heights you never imagined. Each time you feel defeated, remember that pain is a signal of growth. It is the universe telling you that you are being tested, that your endurance, your focus, and your willpower are being forged in fire. Every setback is a stepping stone. Every heartbreak is a lesson in emotional resilience. Every loss, every failure, every moment of humiliation is a deposit into the bank of experience that will pay off in power, clarity, and ambition. Hardship teaches clarity. When you are stripped of comfort, you see what is essential and what is distraction. You learn to distinguish between what truly matters and what only feels urgent. Pain sharpens your vision. It shows you the paths that are worth pursuing and reveals the illusions you once chased blindly. It pushes you out of complacency and forces action. Without struggle, most people wander aimlessly, settling for mediocrity, afraid to challenge themselves or confront their limits. But pain lights a fire that cannot be ignored. It is the inner engine that drives you to fight, to grind, to create, and to dominate the circumstances that once tried to define you. Ambition born from comfort is weak. Ambition born from hardship is unbreakable. When you have tasted struggle, you understand that nothing worth having comes easy. You develop patience for the grind and intolerance for laziness. You begin to crave challenge because you know that each struggle you overcome brings you closer to your ultimate potential. Every time you are knocked down, every time the world says you can't, every time your own body or mind rebels against your efforts, that is the fuel you feed your ambition. Pain becomes the teacher, hardship the mentor, and failure the motivator that ensures you never accept anything less than your maximum. Using pain as fuel also demands mindset mastery. It requires seeing every negative experience not as an end, but as a signal to act, to improve, to dominate. When someone insults you, let it drive you to prove them wrong. When someone betrays you, let it drive you to build a life so strong that no one can undermine it. When life seems unfair, let it fuel a hunger that cannot be quenched by comfort, distraction, or excuses. The strongest warriors, entrepreneurs, and leaders are those who have learned to transform suffering into strategy, anger into execution, and disappointment into determination. Pain becomes a lens through which they see opportunity, a weapon they wield against mediocrity, and a fire that burns brighter than any obstacle. The people who complain about hardship will never taste greatness. The people who avoid struggle will never know the strength of ambition forged in fire. But those who harness suffering, those who take every defeat, every tear, every moment of despair, and turn it into relentless action, those are the people who rise above the crowd. They understand that life is never fair, that pain is inevitable, but that ambition is their choice. They understand that their future is built not on comfort, but on endurance. They understand that every challenge, every failure, every hardship is a gift when you know how to use it. So embrace the pain, welcome the struggle, let hardship carve you, shape you, and define the hunger in your soul. Transform every setback into strategy, every loss into a lesson, every moment of suffering into fuel. Let it push you to rise earlier, work harder, think sharper, and live stronger than anyone around you. Pain is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your legend. The harder life strikes, the harder you strike back. The greater the challenge, the greater the triumph. Let your suffering ignite a fire of ambition so fierce, so relentless that no obstacle, no failure, no doubter can ever extinguish it. In the furnace of hardship, you will find yourself. In the crucible of pain, you will forge ambition. And once you do, there will be no limit to what you can achieve. Too many people live their lives as if the opinions of others are the ultimate measure of their worth. They chase likes, applause, and approval, believing that external validation is proof that they matter. But here's the hard truth. The world doesn't care about your potential, your effort, or your struggle. The applause fades, compliments vanish, and admiration is often fleeting. If you build your life around validation from others, you are building on sand, fragile and unstable, ready to collapse at the first gust of criticism or disappointment. Real power, real achievement comes from trusting your own grind, from relying on yourself, from knowing that your effort is the only standard that matters. When you stop looking for recognition, when you stop measuring your worth against the attention of others, you free yourself to pursue greatness without compromise. You stop living for the noise and start living for the result. Trusting your grind means understanding that success is not instant, visible, or guaranteed. It is built in silent, unseen hours. It is built in sweat, pain, and relentless consistency. It is built in moments when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when every excuse tempts you to stop and yet you keep going. That is where real power is forged. When you push forward alone, without praise, without external validation, without applause, it is easy to be motivated when everyone sees your effort. It is easy to work when you are celebrated. But True strength is tested when your efforts go unnoticed, when you face setbacks in silence, when the world doubts you and you have no one to confirm your worth. That is the moment that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. External validation is addictive. The desire to be liked, praised, or admired can dominate your decisions, your priorities, and your mindset. It tempts you to take shortcuts, to water down your ambitions, to chase popularity over progress. It makes you a prisoner of other people's opinions instead of a master of your own destiny. Every time you let someone else define your worth, you weaken your power. Every time you allow their approval to dictate your actions, you give away control over your life. But when you trust your grind, when you internalize your value, when you stop seeking permission to succeed, you become unstoppable. You are no longer dependent on fleeting applause. Your results, your effort, and your discipline become your own validation. The people who achieve greatness understand this. They understand that the world will often ignore their grind, ridicule their efforts, and question their choices. But they persist anyway. They know that approval is temporary, but mastery is permanent. They know that the only thing that truly matters is consistency, discipline, and relentless action. They measure themselves against their own standards, their own potential, and their own goals. They are not distracted by opinions, by envy, or by praise. They are obsessed with the work, obsessed with improvement, obsessed with proving to themselves that they are capable of more than anyone, including themselves, could have imagined. Trusting your own grind also requires patience. External validation is immediate, but results from your effort often take time. Growth is not instant, and mastery is never easy. The world may ignore you for years or even decades, and you must continue grinding anyway. This is where the weak falter. They crave recognition too soon. They rely on applause to motivate them, and when it doesn't come, they quit. The strong, however, persist silently. They understand that the reward is not in approval, but in becoming someone capable of achieving greatness, regardless of the world's attention. They focus on the process, on the discipline, and on the relentless pursuit of their vision. They measure success not by comparison, but by their own progress. When you trust your grind, you also learn to cultivate an internal compass that guides you through challenges, criticism, and doubt. You no longer allow the negativity of others to define your path. You no longer let their ignorance or envy dictate your actions. Instead, you develop confidence in your own effort, clarity in your purpose, and resilience in the face of adversity. Your grind becomes your currency, your work ethic becomes your reputation, and your results become your permanent legacy. You no longer need validation because you are validating yourself with every action, every sacrifice, and every moment of discipline. Avoiding external validation also opens the door to authenticity. When you stop trying to impress others, when you stop shaping your life around their expectations, you begin to live a life that is truly yours. You take risks that others would never dare, chase ambitions that others would mock, and pursue excellence on your own terms. The freedom that comes from self-reliance is liberating. It allows you to focus fully on your vision, to grind without distraction, and to create a life defined by your standards, not by the opinions of others. At the end of the day, the only person whose approval truly matters is you. The only person who can validate your effort is you. The only person who can determine your worth is you. When you trust your grind, you free yourself from the chains of opinion, expectation, and fleeting attention. You stop living to be noticed and start living to be relentless. You stop seeking permission to succeed and start taking it. You stop depending on applause and start building a legacy that cannot be ignored. Your grind becomes unstoppable, your vision unshakable, and your life a testament to the power of trusting yourself above all else. Fear is a shadow that follows every ambition, every dream, every step outside of comfort. Doubt is the whisper that sneaks into your mind when the path is uncertain, when obstacles loom, and when the world seems determined to break your spirit. Most people run from fear. Most people surrender to doubt. They let it paralyze them, control their decisions, and define their limits. But the truly powerful, the relentless, the unstoppable, understand that fear and doubt are not enemies. They are signals, indicators, and fuel. They are the fire that, when harnessed correctly, can propel you farther and faster than any comfort ever could. The first step in transforming fear and doubt into relentless motivation is acknowledging them, not running from them. To deny fear is to let it fester in secret, to confront it is to take the first step toward domination over your own mind. Every person who achieves greatness has stared fear in the face. Every visionary, every leader, every warrior has felt the cold grip of doubt, yet they pressed on anyway. The difference between those who rise and those who fall is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to convert it into a driving force. Fear is energy. Doubt is challenge. They are warnings, not obstacles. They tell you that you are about to grow, that you are about to step into uncharted territory, that the path you are on matters. If you embrace that fear, if you stare it down, acknowledge its presence, it becomes a compass pointing you toward your next level. Doubt is the mind's way of testing commitment. When doubt arises, it is asking, are you willing to fight for this, even when nothing is certain? The answer, if you transform doubt into motivation, is always yes. The power of fear lies in its intensity. It demands attention. It disrupts complacency. Instead of ignoring it, use it. Let fear sharpen your focus. Let it ignite your drive. Let it push you to prepare, to strategize, to execute with a precision and urgency that only awareness of the stakes can create. Doubt, when handled correctly, becomes your internal coach. It forces you to question your methods, strengthen your skills, and anticipate obstacles. It keeps you humble, aware, and hungry, but only if you refuse to succumb to the freeze that so many others fall into. When fear knocks, answer it with action. When doubt whispers, answer it with relentless preparation. Turn every sensation of uncertainty into a signal to push harder, to rise faster, to train longer, and to outwork everyone else who is waiting for courage to arrive on its own. Transforming fear into motivation also requires understanding the nature of pain and discomfort. Fear often comes with a twinge of anticipation, anxiety, or unease. Feelings most people try to avoid at all costs, but these feelings are proof that you are alive, proof that your ambition matters, proof that the stakes are high. The stronger the fear, the greater the opportunity. The louder the doubt, the more significant the challenge ahead. Greatness is never born in comfort, and motivation is never forged in ease. Every time fear creeps in, lean into it. Every time doubt tries to slow you down, accelerate anyway. Let these sensations fuel a fire that refuses to be extinguished by hesitation, by uncertainty, or by distraction. Fear is temporary. Action is eternal. Mental discipline is key. You must rewire your mind to see fear and doubt as allies rather than enemies. Train yourself to recognize the moment doubt creeps in and respond with deliberate action. When your mind says, you can't do this, respond with, watch me. When fear threatens to paralyze, channel it into intensity, into speed, into focus, and into precision. The muscles of the mind, like the muscles of the body, grow stronger under resistance. Doubt and fear are resistance. The more you encounter them and push through them, the stronger, sharper, and more unstoppable your motivation becomes. Fear and doubt also have the power to clarify purpose. When you are afraid, it often means you are standing at the edge of growth. When you doubt, it often means you are testing limits you never dared test before. The strongest people use this insight to their advantage. They ask themselves, why do I feel fear? What does this doubt want me to see? And then they act. They act with intensity, with precision, and with the knowledge that discomfort is temporary, but regret is permanent. Motivation generated from fear is relentless because it is personal, visceral, and urgent. It is the fire that burns away excuses, distractions, and hesitation. Finally, transforming fear and doubt into motivation requires a refusal to give up. No one achieves greatness without encountering both. No one rises without confronting the shadows within their own mind. The world will try to amplify your fear. Others will try to seed doubt. Life will test you in ways that seem impossible. But every time you step into that challenge, every time you push past hesitation, every time you convert anxiety into action, you are building a mind that cannot be shaken, a drive that cannot be tamed, and a life that cannot be ignored. Fear becomes a compass, doubt becomes a fire, and your relentless action becomes unstoppable. When you finally master this skill, nothing external can derail you. No criticism, no failure, no uncertainty can break your momentum. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a force of nature, fueled by the very emotions that once threatened to destroy you. Fear and doubt are no longer obstacles. They are the accelerants of your ambition, the engines of your progress and the allies of your unstoppable grind. The moment you understand this, you become unbreakable, unshakable, and absolutely relentless. True strength is not measured by the applause of crowds, the praise of peers, or the validation of others. It is measured in the silent moments when no one is watching, when the world's attention is elsewhere, and when you are left alone with nothing but your thoughts, your fears, and your ambition. Growing alone is uncomfortable. It is challenging. It exposes weaknesses you never knew existed and forces you to confront truths about yourself that most people spend their lives running from. But in those moments of solitude, true strength is forged. When you learn to rely solely on yourself, to push forward without encouragement, and to find power in your own persistence, you develop a type of resilience that no external force can ever shake. This is the strength that cannot be borrowed, cannot be inherited, and cannot be faked. It comes only from enduring, learning, and growing alone. The world tries to convince us that we need others to define our worth, to give us guidance, or to confirm our choices. Society idolizes connections, networks, and recognition, but real achievement is rarely born from consensus. It is born in isolation, where discipline, focus, and self-reliance are tested every day. Growing alone teaches patience. It teaches you to trust the process, even when results are invisible. It teaches you to remain consistent, to refine your craft, and to build your character without distraction. When you grow alone, you learn to take responsibility for every action, every decision, and every failure. You learn that no one else will carry you, and that the only person accountable for your progress is you. Solitude exposes weakness, and that exposure is the birthplace of strength. When no one is around to cover your mistakes, to make excuses for you, or to prop you up, you are forced to face your own limitations. It is uncomfortable, it is painful, and it is necessary. Every failure in solitude becomes a lesson. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to adapt. Every moment of doubt becomes a chance to solidify resolve. People who avoid being alone miss this opportunity. They seek constant reassurance, comfort, and guidance, and in doing so, they stunt their growth. But those who embrace their solitude discover an inner power that cannot be shaken because it was built, tested, and refined without compromise. Growing alone also teaches emotional resilience. Life will test you with betrayal, disappointment, and rejection. And when you have practiced thriving alone, these blows do not break you. They do not define you. You have already learned to stand on your own, to find fulfillment in your effort, and to cultivate confidence that is independent of external approval. Emotional strength emerges from repeated exposure to discomfort and self-reliance. When you learn to navigate life without leaning on others for comfort or validation, your mind becomes sharper, your focus clearer, and your ambition more unrelenting. You are no longer vulnerable to the fluctuations of opinion or the unpredictability of circumstance. You are steady, you are powerful, you are unshakable. Self-mastery is impossible without periods of solitude. Growing alone forces you to examine your habits, your mindset, and your priorities. It teaches you to distinguish between what is essential and what is trivial. It forces you to define your own values, set your own standards, and pursue your goals without distraction. When you are alone, you are accountable only to yourself, and that accountability breeds integrity, discipline, and focus. The strongest individuals are those who have spent countless hours honing themselves in silence, refining their skills, and preparing for challenges that no one else could see coming. This is where champions are born, not in applause, not in recognition, but in isolation, in relentless self-improvement, and in absolute dedication to their own growth. Growth alone also nurtures creativity and innovation. Without the influence of outside voices, opinions, or expectations, you are free to explore, experiment, and push boundaries. You learn to trust your intuition, to think independently, and to develop solutions that are uniquely your own. Many people fear being alone because it forces them to confront uncertainty and discomfort. But those who embrace it discover a type of freedom and power that others will never understand. True strength is not imitation or conformity. It is originality, self-reliance, and the courage to act when no one else is guiding, supporting, or applauding you. The people who achieve greatness are rarely surrounded by constant approval or recognition during their journey. They spend years, sometimes decades, working in silence, mastering themselves, and growing alone. Every early morning, they rise without anyone cheering. Every late night, they grind without witnesses. Every sacrifice they make without acknowledgement. All of it compounds into strength, resilience, and power. By learning to thrive in solitude, they create a foundation so solid that no external force can topple it. They understand that true strength comes